You're listening to Worshipology with Kurtis Parks, a biblical, practical, and spiritual conversation about living and leading worship. Visit kurtisparks.com to learn more and check out Kurtis's books and latest resources for your worship team. Worshipology is a part of the Worship Leader Magazine podcast network. Worship Leader Magazine has a heart to equip spirit-led worship leaders with practical tools, theological insight, and encouragement for the local church. Today's episode is brought to you by Praise Charts. Whatever resources you're looking for on the latest songs in today's worship music, Praise Charts has you ready to go. Whether you need chord charts, lead sheets, or full orchestrations, everything is formatted for your team and available for instant download. Stay current, save time, and lead with confidence. Check out praisecharts.com today and get your hands on the freshest songs for Sunday. Now, lean in to today's episode of Worshipology with Kurtis Parks.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Worshipology. This is a biblical, practical, spiritual conversation all about living and leading worship. And today I've got a good friend of mine. We just did a project together. This guy has the voice of an angel. Alec Blythe, say what's up to the podcast.
Hey, what's up? My name's Alec.
Do you hear that a lot? Because you do have like one of the most unique and like awesome tones out in the planet.
I will be honest, that actually is one of the things that if people that not me will say about me. And
like, you don't say it about yourself. That's good.
I don't say it about myself, but the word for word, voice of an angel. And
and that's the thing. Like you say that about people that can sing really good, but like who of us has heard the voice of an angel? Probably a small select group, you know?
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Well, Alec, man, I'm stoked to have you on the podcast. We did just do a song together, and we're going to talk all about that. It's called Slow Down. We're going to put a link in the show notes. You got to check it out. It's an amazing song. This guy's a talented songwriter, singer, worship leader, anointed. Man, just tell our listeners like a little bit of your story. Like, how did you get started in leading worship, and where are you from, man?
Yeah, so I'm from Stephen City, Virginia. I'm married with 2 dogs, and I work at a church called Abundant Life Church in Stephen City, Virginia. So nice, not a far drive for me. And so, I got started with worship ministry, actually, where my wife and I pastored and lead at is our home church where we grew up at. So we both went off to Bible college, came back, but I started in worship ministry when I was a student. I think like a lot of teenagers, where once your youth pastor kind of finds out if you have any musical ability, you're kind of voluntold like, hey, you should hop on the worship team. But especially for us, man, because we didn't have a worship team or band at any point. So like when I was in middle school, really through my freshman year, it was just like lyric videos on YouTube. Wow. And that was how we worshiped. And so it was like, all the old Jesus culture stuff.
Yep.
There is power in.
Let's
so
go.
like I remember like I just encountered God in those lyric videos. And I remember there was one camp or conference when I got saved at 14, and I started, my worship pastor came and talked to me. He's like, you should do a worship team. And I was like, I don't know what that looks like. But I remember during one of those lyric videos, I just remember praying like, God, if you would use me to bring people to a place of encounter, like I'm encountering you now, God, I'll do whatever you want. So, yeah.
Wow. So 14 is kind of when you really took that step.
Yeah. That's when I really started to just like, okay, God, like I'll learn guitar. Like I don't know anything. I'll learn what a chord chart is. And so like all the basic stuff at 14, I think I learned Our God by Chris Tomlin. And
classic.
He had like the tabs that like went along with the video on YouTube. And so I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I played it over and over and over again till I didn't mess up. And then I would be like, okay, let's try another song.
Yeah.
So, man, no, I think I got started in that's really my start of worship ministry as a whole. But a lot of those years were just very formational in the sense of like, like I said, God, I encountered you through these lyric videos and just this YouTube video. Imagine what we could do. Imagine just what would happen if we had real people leading worship in a place. And so, it was really cool, man. It's been a fun journey. I wasn't perfect when I said yes. I wasn't very good, singing or playing guitar yet, but I was just available, and God chose to use that.
That's cool. I noticed you mentioned the word encounter several times in your story. And that's kind of actually something that's been popping up on this podcast a lot this year is just encounter. It's something we've been praying for at our church, Destination Church, like every Sunday that we would have an encounter with the presence of God. What does that mean to you, Alec, in particular?
Yeah. That is a good question. I would say for me, it's just meeting, like for me, when I first encountered God was just when I first met God. So
wow.
I always think of when Moses goes up to the mountain and, he receives the 10 commandments and, but he's just in the presence of God. Nothing else mattered at that moment. And so for me, an encounter is where I'm able to kind of just take my eyes off of everything around me and just fix my eyes solely on Jesus and whatever he wants to say or do.
Wow. So you're 14, you're kind of starting leading worship. You're going from YouTube videos. So now we got people on stage actually leading songs. Like, did you know from an early start, like, oh man, I actually have kind of a unique voice and like, or was it like natural for you or was it something you had to work on? You had people like in your corner, like challenging you, helping you grow, coaching you?
Yeah. I mean, I never had I would say musical coaching or anything like that. I just had I had a great support system of people that loved me, cared for me, wanted to see me grow. And my youth pastor at the time was actually really just a big part of my discipleship. And so there was a moment where I was doing really well musically, but spiritually I was suffering. And so there was a season where I think I was either a junior or a senior. He asked me to step down from our worship team.
Wow.
And it was, we're a team of 5 people. And so it was like, now it's only 4 if I'm not on it. And I think I sat out for a few months because I just wasn't in a place to lead people. And it was just, going through stuff that normal teenage boys do with insecurities and, just not living a life that would honor God. And so then, finally, once I did and kind of rededicated my life to the Lord, it was just like, okay, now I want to chase after this wholeheartedly.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man. And so, there wasn't any necessarily thought in my head of like, oh, my voice is special. I was just, I kind of just made myself available. It was just like, God, if you want to use me here, I'm just going to make myself available. Yeah.
Okay, so you're leading worship in the youth. How does that kind of translate? Because I know you're also, part of the adult team. How old are you now? And then talk a little bit about the worship culture at Abundant Life, man, and how you've kind of been able to speak into that and shape that with your pastor.
Yeah, man. No, it's been really cool. So outside of leading worship on Sundays, I also lead worship on Wednesday nights with our youth group still. And so it's been a really cool season. And it's always fun to balance out the difference between like leading worship for students and leading worship for adults. But man, the worship culture at Abundant Life, I mean, I think we're pretty similar to any sort of like Assemblies of God church. That's our denomination, by the way, shout out. AG. And so like we're pretty contemporary. We're really starting to lean into like that flowy side of worship of like, oh, what if we didn't just end after 3 songs? What if we kept it going? And so even being able to like invest in our volunteers, and that's something that our pastor, he's pretty open to it. Like he's never been in a place where if he doesn't like something, he'll absolutely say it, but we just haven't hit a point where he's like, no, I don't want that. And so we've just kind of kept expanding and kept trying to just make more space for the Lord and what he wants to do. And so it's been challenging our teammates. Hey, once our teams, hey, once the last song's over, let's just keep vamping there. Like let's keep the instruments going. That's like cool. Let's just see what the Lord does. Or even between a couple songs, like let's just see what happens. Either bring the dynamics up or down. And so just challenging us to not just put God in this sort of like planning center box of like whatever's on the service order has to happen.
Wow.
Because sometimes it is just that it is just making space for the Holy Spirit to move. We actually, man, it was crazy. This past Wednesday night.
Yeah, I saw a post.
Dude, crazy. So we this was our youth service. We had a team of majority of students. I think I was one of 2 adults on the team, which is awesome in itself. Like we have students that are hungry and want to be a part of it. And we get to this point where we're doing worship and a lot of the students in the congregation started to like disengage and kind of just like, okay, I'm ready to go back to my seat. And my wife, who's the youth pastor at our church, she comes up and just gives this deeper challenge of like, no, we're going to press in a little bit. We don't need the big band, but like, Alec, you just stay here. Just let's lean in. Keys, you stay up. And so we just started to go, and my wife didn't actually end up preaching that night because all of a sudden there was just a shift in the room. Students started crying out to God. We felt there was a prompting to start asking if kids wanted to receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit. So we started praying for them at the altar with that. And so what we could have ended up saying, okay, they're just not into it tonight, ended up being, no, we just need to challenge them to go deeper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what that means when you're saying, flow. Because we have some people that, obviously I was raised Pentecostal in the I don't know if that is obvious, but raised in the charismatic stream. And so when we say flow, it just kind of means going off the script, kind of going off the plan. Yes. When you're talking to worship leaders from all different kind of backgrounds and denominations, talk about what that looks like in those different contexts, because you've led in conferences, you've led in different camps and conferences that have different denominations and stuff like that, or maybe you haven't, I don't know, but what does that look like when you're kind of in these different spaces to kind of lean into this unknown?
Yeah. I was always taught by a few worship mentors of mine, to go in with a plan and then be okay if that plan gets thrown out the window by God.
Wow.
I don't want to go in with just, God, whatever you want to do, I'm ready. I think that takes very bold faith, and I don't think I've worked my way to that point yet. And so I'll usually come in okay, if I know we're doing a camp and there's going to be altar time at the end, I'll usually sometimes I don't ask for the notes. Sometimes I do, just for the speaker, just to get my mind wrapped around, okay, maybe there's some certain songs that'll hit thematically. But I've started getting to a place where I don't usually ask for the notes. I kind of just read the room a little bit of okay, this is really what's resonating, because again, I can plan for something, and if God's doing something else, I would rather go with his plan than my plan.
Always.
And so, I try to go in with a plan because I believe our God is a God of order and structure. We have laws of physics for a reason and things like that. Makes everything work together. But at the end of the day, I just want to be yielded. That's been kind of my word as coming out of last year into this year, is God, just help me remain yielded and live my life with open hands, of saying, God, whatever you want to put in, I'll happily receive, and whatever you want to take, God, I give it to you as worship. And so even with leading worship in a room, I think when I was younger, 18, 19, leading worship, it was okay, God, how can I make this happen? How can I get people to raise their hands? Wow. And now at 28, 10 years later, I'm God, help me get out of the way so people can encounter you more. Wow. Help me to just experience your goodness. And I don't want to force anything. I don't want it to feel ingenuine or inauthentic, but God, just make your presence known to people again. And he's almost brought me back to that willingness when I was 14 of God, I just want people to experience your presence again.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
It's so cool because I don't know about you, but I find that if you can kind of flow and navigate your way out of a song and then into this open space, it's almost like you're walking from a pathway that has markers on it, and then you walk into this open field, right?
Yeah.
And it's there's no markers, it's just an open field, and it's I can go anywhere I want. I'm with the Lord, he's gonna lead me, and it's this super high trust level of you're prepared, but you're also available. I love that balance there. And the interesting thing is, I think it's the moments where you're off stage with just a guitar in your basement or your living room that leads to those moments where it's not that scary when you're on a stage with a microphone and a congregation. Talk about that secret place for you. Is that kind of where you write songs? Is that kind of where you learned to flow? Is that where you really just got to be with the Holy Spirit and understand what does this look like in the secret place, and then let that inform the public place? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I personally am at a point in my life where I'm God, just keep bringing me back to the secret place, man.
Wow.
I'm almost I don't want to say addicted to it, but I am. Every morning I have a routine, and I think there's beauty in a lot of routine, because we're even talking about flow, flow in a service. But in my personal life, I love routine. I love the
same.
Every day looks the same, and I have it mapped out. It's awesome, and obviously that's a heavy exaggeration of not every day looks literally the same, but every morning I will get up at 6 or 6:30, depending if I feel like sleeping in or not. Again, no kids, so shout out to sleeping into that.
Enjoy it, man.
I will. And so, yeah, I'll sleep until about 6:30. I'll get up, I'll make just a quick cup of coffee, and then I'll just start diving into my word. My guitar's right next to me. I have a couple of devotional books and journals as well. Just anything that I feel like the Lord might speak to me in a moment, I just want to be ready for. But it always starts with, I just open up and I do my daily, I try to do a Bible in the year plan every year. I've done it since I was 18. And so I just keep reading through, and I just start to journal what the Lord's speaking to me. And sometimes if there's just a certain thing that the Lord is writing in me, I'll start journaling it. I'll grab my guitar, I'll start writing stuff. I'll play songs maybe that I do know, or maybe just I'll start singing through the scriptures. Like usually when I get to the Psalms, I'll sing through those, because sometimes I'll read through the Psalms, or like I'll read them even on like a Sunday morning as like an exhortation. But a lot of the Psalms were written to be sung.
Wow.
And sometimes I forget about that. And so like we actually had a first Wednesday like kind of encounter night at our church where it's just like prayer and worship led. And we had Psalm 18 on the on like the screen behind us, and I just felt the Lord promptly just say like, I want you to sing this over my people. And so I was like, okay, I don't know how we're going to do this melodically, God, but we're just going to go for it.
Wow.
And it ended up being just this incredibly powerful time, just singing like, God, you are my rock. You are my strong tower. And the words themselves were resonating with him because there was nothing that I did to add to it. I was just singing the words that were on the screen and putting music behind it. But I mean, I think to when David was writing those words, like he would have been alone in the field as a shepherd, or in the cave hiding, or in the palace, or in just before the presence of God, writing these songs and melodies to God. And obviously I don't know exactly how they sounded, but I believe we caught the spirit of what God was trying to say and what David was trying to say back to the Lord.
Man, that's so awesome, dude. I can only imagine that moment. And I've been there too, where it's like you have this, there's a spirit, there's an atmosphere in the room. God's wanting to do something that no one planned. Yeah. And I think it's because I think about David, you just brought him up, and it's like David was prepared for Goliath because of the secret place in the fields when he, slayed the lion and the bear. And it was like nothing for him to kind of take that David onto the field when everybody was watching. It was like, this is just who I am. I'm prepared for this. And I think of a worship leader, it's like when you're in your living room and no one's around and you're just, on an acoustic or a piano, or you're just singing to the Lord, and God begins to give you a new song. The more that you get into that rhythm of just opening your heart and preparing your spirit to receive anything that he wants to drop in your lap. When those moments happen where there's a Psalm 18 on the screen, it's like, oh, I've been here before. This isn't, I think that's just so cool, man. And it speaks to your character. It speaks to you, your songwriting ability, but also just to your willingness to be out there and talk to us a little bit about, we're hitting on songwriting here a little bit with David and the Psalms. Is that secret place the only place where you write songs, or have you written songs like in the middle of a service, or is it more like of an intentional, no, I'm crafting out some time to like chisel out a song here?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. No, I tend to lean more in the way of like, when it comes to songwriting, I'll lean more to the secret place, because for me, a lot of the songs that I've written have just come from very personal places between my relationship with the Lord. But there have been, I don't know if they've been songs, but definitely just some like phrases or melodies like in a service that have come out. But a lot of that, again, has come from the secret place. Like if I know we're singing, singing songs about Revelation, like I'm just like, I'll read, like I can see the scriptures in my head of like Revelation 4, where it talks about the angels surrounding the throne, elders casting their crowns down. And I'm just like, the imagery starts to speak to me. And so then I just start to give God praise in a moment. And so if anything, I don't plan for anything spontaneous naturally. I mean, that's kind of the given, but a lot of my like songwriting, if I'm crafting something, usually always comes from the secret place, because I also believe that God will always want to do something in me before he does something through me.
Wow. Say that again. Say that again.
I've found in my life that God will always want to do something in me and in my heart before he does something through me with my hands,
really good,
or with my voice.
Wow. That's so good. What does that mean, like on a practical sense of God doing something in you so that he can do something through you? Is that like more of like, I think of that Luke 8, I think it's Luke 8:17, where it's like nothing's done in the secret that won't be made known to all. Is that kind of what that's talking about, Alec?
Yeah, very, very much so, man. Like, one of the questions you had sent me before, I had a different answer for, but I believe just this before, we're seeing revival all across, our nation right now. And it's really cool to see. I look at Southeastern right now and that it's still going on after pretty much 48 hours, which is awesome. I look at Asbury a couple years ago with 16. I look at even like the old revivals like Brownsville and Azusa Street, all these kinds of things. When I look at the revivals and how they started, they all started from a place of consecration and repentance of sin. Wow. And so for me, if I want to see revival break out in our church or in our community or in my life, I need to make sure that I am consecrating myself before God. And I'm just saying, God, whatever you want to do with me, I'm yours. Like it's so freeing. Like it can sound so weird of like, God gave us free will to choose him, but ultimately, like, I'm just trying to make myself available of like, God, whatever you want to do with me, just do it. Like, I'm ready. Wow. And sorry, that's a lack of better words, but it always comes from a place of consecration. And if I'm not consecrated, then I'm going to get frustrated because God's going to keep confronting me with the same thing over and over again. He doesn't often let me move past if I'm like, if I'm struggling with unforgiveness or bitterness, if I choose to just shove it down, that will end up coming back as frustration in my life.
Man. Yeah. Joshua 3:5 has been one of those scriptures that, just throughout the years of leading worship, I've always kind of held close to my heart, where it was like, we want to see the amazing things. We love seeing the amazing things, but God says, consecrate yourself to the Lord, for tomorrow he'll do amazing things. Yeah. And the idea that, you're right. Consecration always precedes a move of God. It always precedes the amazing things. Let's backtrack a little bit, because, you said you lead worship for youth and in adults. I'm just curious, what's the biggest difference that you notice in those two age groups, and is there a different approach to the songs, to the style, to even how you kind of take the stage and what bands you put together for those, Alec?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think there's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of differences in the musicality side. Like, we can get away with some songs like Phenomena, like Hillsong Young and Free, a song that literally has a rap in the middle of it. I love it. I don't think our general Sunday congregation just wouldn't get into it. And so if it's going to be more of a distraction than it would be to help, bring people in. And so like for youth, I tend to say like, we're just all in all the time. Wow. And so if it's an upbeat song, like we have songs that we just call jumpers because they just make you want to jump. And so it's like, if it's a jumper, everybody's jumping. Let's go. It's not just for the sake of hype. It's not just for the sake, but when we begin to jump and have fun in church, we're also teaching the students in our youth group or in our youth congregation, it is okay to praise God and have fun. It is not just and especially for us coming from a charismatic background, we're like, no, it's okay to jump around, give God praise. But then also in the moments when the worship set begins to take a more intimate turn, we lean all in and we don't shy away from a lot of songs lyrically. Yeah. I think I used to of like, oh no, that would be too hard for some of our students. And I've said those words before. Wow. Like, that'd be too hard for them to catch on. But I think I've adopted this mindset of like, no, I want to call them up to a place where it's like, no, God can still meet you here. And it also provides a place to teach them. Wow. And so leading worship for youth also usually involves a lot of specific instructions of like, almost like worship etiquette in a way. Wow. Of like, this is why we raise our hands. This is why we clap. This is why we jump. As it goes into a more intimate setting, I will always start off and say, how many of you are so thankful that you have a friend here tonight? And they're like, yeah, I love my friends. They're the best. And I'm like, and now as we go and we're going to press in, I want you to take a couple steps away from your friend because I don't want you to be distracted or distract your friend from what God might do in this moment. Wow. And so for us to see some of the responses that we would like to see as worship leaders, sometimes it just takes specific instruction. And it's not that I'm trying to manipulate, because a lot of what I'm doing is just trying to get them to a place where they're receptive to hear what God does. I'm not going to force them to raise their hands. I'll encourage them But at the end of the day, that's their choice if they do it or not. And so usually it's just a little bit more of that than compared to like a Sunday morning, because usually Sunday mornings it's families that there are still some new ones, but you're always going to have people raising their hands for the most part in our kind of church context, or clapping along, singing. And so it's more scriptural exhortation usually on Sunday mornings than like the specific almost teaching moments that we have with youth. So they're both teaching in a way, it's just different.
That's really cool when you approach it in the learning aspect of like, every kid in high school is in school, they're learning, and you're still teaching, like you said, on Sunday. Obviously, if you're not teaching, that means that nobody is learning. And the pastor's going to be teaching through the word. And you're going to have people that have never been to church before. They have no idea what worship is. Why are we singing? Why are people lifting their hands? So you're going to have that aspect. But I love that you just said that, like, you're basically helping them learn from an early age. Number one, that it's fun to worship, that you can have a good time in church.
Yes.
But I love what you said. Like, you're not going to shy away from the deep lyrics because you want to call them up. That's a great thought. And if you're leading worship for a youth service and you're listening to this, that's something to chew on right there, of like, we don't need to dumb down things for kids. Cause I'll be honest, I've got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they pick up way more than you think.
Oh, absolutely.
And, they're smarter today than when I was a kid. We didn't have, I had no idea, what the internet was and all. This is going to age me and date me, but nowadays, there's just such a higher emphasis on you can learn anything, anytime, anywhere. And and so why wouldn't we treat our kids like they're learners? Like, I love that, man.
Yeah. Well, like you said, they're already picking up on it. And especially with social media now, like a kid, we even talk about it with our church on Sundays of like, if there's a new person that comes to your church, usually within 5 minutes, they've already gathered if they want to come back next Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that is just a very well-known thing that we talk about in church circles. So it's like, we always try to make a good first impression, but I also believe that if there's not a great first impression, I want to give every chance to redeem that as much as I can.
Wow.
And so it's like, okay, maybe, whoever greeted you today they were just in a grumpy mood or something like that. How can I encourage you to where you walked away feeling like not only that you gained something just, as a consumer, because that's a whole different conversation, but how do I help you feel like how do I make you feel like you were welcomed in our church? How do I make you feel like you encountered God in our church? How do I help you feel like this is a place where you could see yourself taking your family to? And whether that's here or if it's a church down the road, I just hope you find it. And so like, that's truthfully our heart as our staff, and even just my own personal heart of like, I just want people to be involved in community as best as they can, man. And so creating opportunities to just be real with people. It's fun.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Well, I have to ask you this. You're in ministry with your wife. You guys often, are sharing the stage together. Talk about a little bit what she does, and then how you guys really tag team in ministry, and how does that work? Is there like hey, when we're home, we're not talking, shop, we're not talking ministry, or is it just like, it's just part of everything that you guys do? Share a little bit.
Yeah, man. Well, we both genuinely love ministry. We love even like the work of ministry, like going into meetings and planning out budgets and doing all that stuff. Like, for us, we just have such a heart for the church. And so it is definitely easy to get wrapped up in it. So we usually, when we get home, we try not to talk about it. That is a boundary. Some days are better than others. We're not perfect at it, but usually if it's like, if it's a hard day at work or if it's a hard day in ministry, we'll give ourselves like 30 minutes, just decompress and say,
that's good.
Hey, if you have anything you need to say, let's get it out now. And we'll usually end it with prayer as well. Just, if it's a frustration with a person or with just a certain thing that's going on in the church, we always try to end it with prayer, because if not, then we're just venting, and that doesn't really help anything. And so we do just try to, but we know that we don't want to keep those emotions in. We need a place to let that out. And so, we usually try to not talk about it at home. Usually if we have a lot to say, we'll actually end up driving around, because for us, the car is just a safe place for us to talk. And so we'll drive, get some coffee, and even like, not even just on the frustration end, but even on the dreaming end, when we're dreaming for ministry, we'll usually take a drive in the car, because there's just something about us being like moving and not being like, sitting at home on the couch, or there's no temptation of turning on a TV or scrolling on our phone. It just gives us a place to be very present with one another. And so, we'll usually drive around and just start talking about what God's doing in her heart, doing in my heart. What's the God trying to do through us as a couple? And so, but doing ministry alongside my wife is one of the best. It's an honor and a privilege, truthfully, to do it. Even
and she's the youth pastor there, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So she's the youth pastor. So every Wednesday we're doing this thing together, pastoring these kids. Who will save these kids?
Who will save these kids?
And so, so every Wednesday we do it together. And even as a worship leader, it's cool because naturally she's my wife. So there's already some chemistry there between worship leader to pastor or speaker as well, of just, just like how we pick up on how certain bandmates will do things, or certain teammates or vocalists, that they're trying to go somewhere when they start doing that. They have their little quirks. Yeah. My wife knows mine, I know hers. And so it just makes it real easy to where if I know that, like, usually by the time she's coming up, I know if we're going to wind down or go back into something. And so there's a lot of really good communication that happens non-verbally on the stage, but I also think the Lord just starts moving through a lot of that. And so once you used to add the Holy Spirit into just the general nonverbal communication, it's really cool what God can do in that moment. But man, pastoring alongside my wife is the best. She's awesome.
I can tell, man. And I love the little tip you gave us there. Like, take a drive, like, don't go home. The temptation of the TV, there's so many different distractions. I like that. I'm going to be stealing that one from you,
dude. No, it's helped us so much. And given when we were dating, that was all we did, was just go on drives, because, we didn't want to, end up in sin. So we just being real. And so we would just go on drives. I mean, we tell our kids all the time, like, if you're sitting in a car with a boy in the church parking lot past 10 o'clock, like, nothing good happens. So
nothing good.
Just start driving. if you're going to hang out late, go start driving. That's awesome, but go home too. Yeah.
Go home, man. Let's just hope these gas prices keep coming down, because then we have a lot more dreaming and driving. Let's go.
Real.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I did want to talk to you about, just the process of writing and recording. And, we're going to put a link in the show notes to Alec's new song, Slow Down. It just came out. And so definitely give that a listen. I remember hearing you when we were leading worship for a men's conference within the Assemblies of God. There's about 7 or 8 of us worship leaders from different churches in our district. And I think you started singing Gratitude or something like that. So. And everybody just kind of stopped what they were doing. They turned around. They're like, what is going on right now? And that's really when I first met you and heard you sing. And I could just tell, like, man, this guy has got something on him. I know there's some songs in there. And so it's been a super fun process over the last year to just be working together and see you find your own place here in the recording world. But talk to us a little bit about, like, what happens when you have a song. It did take a little bit to release that song. And so what was kind of being done behind the scenes? And then just encourage those who are listening and writing and maybe dreaming about their own project. What are the things that can hold you back from that? And what are the barriers that you just need to break through?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I didn't have people like you, my wife, and trusted friends of mine encouraging me to release songs because they saw that on me and in me, because a lot of it, I just came down to a lack of belief in myself. Like, I always thought songwriting was for someone else, even though I knew that at a young age, like, God had called me to it.
Wow.
But I just kind of put it off of, like, no, that's for someone else, not for me. But I had voices like you. I had voices like my wife. I had voices of just dear mentors in my life that would just say, hey, I think I see this on you. I just want you to know. And even it got to a point where God just started making it very obvious, where, like, every, conference or event, or even at our own church, a speaker would come up to me and say, hey, do you write music? I think you should. And
wow.
God, you're so funny.
Are you trying to say something to me?
Yes, literally. No, it was literally every event or conference or camp, someone would say something. And I was like, okay, God, I would be very disobedient at this point, or just dumb if I didn't start saying yes. And so, man, that was when I reached out to you, and dude, you're incredible to work with. Like, you're such a good voice to have in my corner. Truthfully, I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. You've believed in me from the moment behind the stage at that men's conference to even now when I was struggling to try to figure out how I want to release a song, when I'm going to release a song. At the end of the day, now that it's out there, I would tell anyone, just do it. Just don't be afraid. Just step in. The water's fine. And I know we talk about that even with like church as well. Like, no, just come, just try it. I think in a similar way with songwriting, like just do it. Even if it's to bless one person, let it bless one person. If it's just to minister to the heart of God, just let it minister to the heart of God. Like I'm trying to let go of a lot of the expectations that I have for a song or the things that I feel like God wants to do through me. And again, just focusing on like what God wants to do in me in this moment. And so even with the song being out there, I've already felt just a freedom of like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's not as people like it. And especially as like, I'm a words of affirmation guy. So it's like the day it released, I got like 10 texts before I even woke up of like, it's out. We're so excited for you. And so like, it already started my day off on like the highest of highs. I'm like, God, you're the best.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because, you know, the song, it's been out a week today. And so by the time this airs, it'll probably have been out a couple weeks. And yeah, I mean, people are sharing it. People are loving it. Everybody that's heard it in our camp has just been like, man, this is such a powerful and beautiful song. Talk about this song in particular. It's called Slow Down. We've been talking about The Secret Place. We've been talking about flow. It kind of just goes right in tandem with those topics. What does this song mean to you? And who is it for, Alec?
Yeah. So I wrote Slow Down back in 2023. Wow. Out of a place of truthfully just burnout, not just in ministry, but in life. A lot of it just came down to I wasn't taking care of myself, both spiritually, physically, emotionally. And I just found myself trying to force things to happen. And it got to a point where I just felt like I was running and not moving. And I felt what I experienced, what I later found out would have been a minor panic attack. Wow. In my chair where I usually have my secret place time. So I reached over to my Bible and, you know, hands shaking, literally, I didn't know what to do. And so I just started grabbing my Bible and I was like, Jesus, help me. And I had bookmarked in my Bible where I was the day before. And I was like, maybe this will help. I don't know. I couldn't do much. And so then I opened it up and the words of Jesus in Matthew 11 really just struck me that's when he says, you know, come and take my yoke upon you. Come to me all who are weary, heavy burden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, for I am gentle, humble at heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden light. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized that my burnout wasn't by God, but also my burnout wasn't even for God. My burnout was happening just because of me. God didn't call me to run myself into the ground. And I believe in ministry, like it's a very sacrificial work that we do. And it is a weight that we have to carry because, you know, Jesus also says as Christians, we have to take up our cross daily and die to ourselves. Wow. But I was almost to an unhealthy point, just like beating myself up. And so for me, Slow Down came to a place of just, I was reminded that Jesus would go at his own pace. He wasn't trying to rush into, Jesus could have came, died, done it. He could have come down as a man, but instead he chose to come down as a baby, live those full 30 years in hiddenness. I'm actually reading a book by Alicia Britt Jolie called Anonymous, and it talks about those first 30 years of Jesus's life. We barely know anything of, and then everything we have in the Gospels is those last 3 years.
Wild.
And so I look at it as just like, God, I don't want to have this weight on my own chest anymore. I need this to come. I need this to be you. And so that's when I've started writing Slow Down. I wrote it in my journal just as a prayer, and I didn't put any music to it, but then I kept coming back to it just to pray it over myself again. And I started just to bring my guitar, and that's how the song just very, very organically happened. I didn't have an intent on writing a song, but it came out of a place, and now God is using it to minister even to just other pastors and church leaders. And I've been so encouraged by a lot of the texts that I got specifically from pastors and church leaders of just, no, I needed to hear this. And not that necessarily I do it for anyone's approval. I just felt like I was trying to be obedient, but it's been really, really encouraging to hear from people saying, no, that this ministered to me. And so,
Wow.
yeah.
That's the hope of every songwriter in the church world, is that, you know, there's a song that just kind of connects you to the presence of God in a deeper way. And I think that's what this song does. And it's a beautiful song, man. I love what you're talking about. Like, you know, you're in a season of burnout. I've been seeing quite a few emails come through about like leaders dealing with burnout, worship leaders burning out, you know, and it's so interesting because you said, you know, God doesn't call us to something that would cause us to burn out. And, you know, in the church world, you know, and as a worship pastor, you probably get this a lot where it's like, you know, hey, I feel like I'm burning out right now. I just need to stop serving. I just need to stop you know, I'm going to take a season off the worship team. And I've always kind of had a little issue with that because it's like, okay, if God calls, like, worship and stress should never be in the same room. Worship, you know, ministering to others, serving others, and burning out should not really be in the same sentence. There's healthy and unhealthy ways to do that. But I feel like if God has called us to something that is for his bride, that's something that is for our calling, he's going to give us the strength to do that. So usually there's another area in your life where it's like, I think the burnout's actually coming from that, how you're staying up till 1 a.m. watching Netflix every night and you're getting up at 7, you know, it's like, I think the burnout might be coming from the fact that your kids are playing 7 sports each and you're running ragged all over the weekend, you know. It's like, man, burnout usually comes from a non-godly place. And I think those things kind of tend to leak into our world a little bit. And but I can tell just from talking to you and hanging out with you that you're in a much better place now. And this song, I do think is going to speak to a lot of people that maybe are in that season where they do need to just take Matthew 11 to heart. I love it. I can't wait for people to hear it. Dude, I don't know where our time is gone, but I got one more question for you, Alec. You are a true gem, man. And I'm just excited to kind of see what God does through you through the rest of this year.
Thank you, man.
You know, obviously it's still kind of a fresh year. 2026 just started. What has the Holy Spirit been speaking to you as we enter this new year? What's kind of like one of those things that God is just kind of like highlighting on your heart for such a time as this, man?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I feel like the Lord keeps bringing me back to 2 Chronicles 7, where it's first Solomon is giving the dedication of the temple. Yeah. And then afterwards, I think we all know the verse, 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who call by my name humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven.
Heal their land, forgive their sin.
Heal their land, forgive their sin. Yes. Yeah. And so, but I started reading even just the parts before God gets there, because I've just been reading through the Bible in chronological order right now, and my devotion just happened to take me there. And in the actual dedication part, it says that God just chose to fill the temple as soon as it was built. It was right after Solomon prayed, and the priests actually hadn't entered into the temple yet. So God's glory had already put himself in there, and the priests hadn't gone in yet. And so then they all start to sacrifice and start to worship the Lord without even going in. And so it kind of all ties back to this idea of consecration of God. Before I just expect you to meet me on a Sunday morning because it's my job or because I feel called to do this, God, would you meet me back in my room? Would you meet me back in my living room? And just say, and Lord, I say, I give you everything that I have. It even says, and I find it interesting that the author of Chronicles wrote this, is that when Solomon starts to sacrifice the cattle and starts to prepare the offerings, he had to do it in the middle of the courtyard, not on the bronze altar that would have been out there, because there was just so many sacrifices that had to be made. Wow. And so Solomon started to worship unconventionally just so he could go and experience, like, they hadn't even done the work of the ministry in the temple yet. And so he just started to pour out everything that he had to God in a very unconventional way at the time, and just say, God, here's what I have to give you. And so I think that's really what the Lord's been trying to speak to me of, like, I keep consecrating yourself, and then I will heal your land. Man. And then if my people who will call by my name humble themselves and pray. Yeah. And how that's shown is just through the consecration. Yeah.
Man, I love it, dude. Well, you are seeing revival happen all over the place. I know the SEU worship, I mean, it's just been pouring over my feed, and just kind of seeing, and even in like the young generation right now. I mean,
Yes.
Barna's always releasing new numbers about, Gen Z is leading the way. Gen Alpha is coming up in the church. Like there's this return to the heart of God, and it's exciting.
Yes.
It's a great time to be in ministry. It's a great time to be leading worship. And
It is.
man, I'm excited to see what God does with this movement. Dude, Alec, I don't know where the time went, but man, what a great conversation. Excited for people to hear the song. Make sure you check out Slow Down. It's on all platforms. And thanks for spending some time with us on Worshipology, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. Seriously. Love you, bro.
You too, man.
You've been listening to Worshipology with Kurtis Parks. Visit kurtisparks.com to learn more and check out Kurtis's books and resources for worship leaders and teams. Worshipology is part of the Worship Leader Magazine podcast network, brought to you by Worship Leader Magazine. Today's episode was sponsored by Praise Charts. Visit praisecharts.com and get everything you need for your worship team today.